And sometimes you come back to the clubhouse and, oh no, they've all turned. Cap, JC, Hitman, no, Lev, no, no. Oh, but if you want to clear them out, it's fairly useful to make sure that you have a silenced pistol. It can do great damage and really help you take them out. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, Vicious. Sorry. One by one. But having a silenced pistol is really useful for clearing out your clubhouses or your PIs in general, because it can do massive damage. And oh, last one. Oh, let's get her. Oh yeah. Phew, that was close. Whew. Thank God we got my trusted pistol here. Really good for clearing. So today we're going to be looking at, well, it's going to be a guide about the pistols and SMGs and Magnum revolver. All together really should be called the guide to handguns. I'm going to go through the perks and skills, the crafting and the ammo, the books and everything that you need to know for using your handguns effectively. And I just recently hit 8K subscribers, so thank you very much. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do, so you'll be notified of my future videos. Assuming, of course, you ring that notification bell as well. I also have my Discord and my Twitter links in the description below. So one of the all-time favorite weapons that a lot of people use because it's easily accessible and has been for a lot of the time the 7 days that I has been out is, of course, the pistol. Later on we got the Magnum or the revolver, we have the SMG, all really good ones as well. Let's have a look at it. So this is all in Alpha 18 under the agility perk. So the thing to look at here is that you're clumsy. And then you're fumbling and everything. So you have to make sure you are perking up your agility attribute, because starting at 1, you do 200% headshot damage, and you also have a 5% chance to dismember with bows, handguns, and knives. And of course, we're going to focus on the handguns here. All the way up to 10, where you have a 300% headshot damage, and you have 50% chance to dismember. Now, I don't think that's 50% per shot, but it's 50% of whatever the limit is. But it really helps. And beyond that, we have the gunslinger perk, and that's really nice. So it starts off by allowing you to craft quality 2 poor handguns. So that's an immediate one that you probably should look at. You deal 10% more damage, you have 5% faster fire rate, which means your index finger is a little bit faster, and you reload faster. And this is the one that unlocks the pistol crafting. Now, as we go up to the last one, you have a 25% fire rate increase, which is quite good. You have a 30% faster reload, and that really helps when you're running around. And you see something that you start getting on 3 is that here, 5 successive hits in a short time causes critical damage. That goes up to 4, where it even specifies that the critical damage is an extra 100% damage. On the 5th one, it only requires 3 successive hits in a short time to make the last shot do 100% extra damage. And of course, that is what the critical damage is. So it's really, really helpful. A complementary perk is really under the stealth, which is the hidden strike, because you'll see even the first one will deal an extra 50% damage. As you go down to number 5, you'll deal an extra 200% damage. So you can imagine you have this one boosted up, doing a headshot, which is then an extra 300% damage as well. Plus, you have this one all the way up. Ooh, you're going to be doing massive amounts of damage. So, in a nutshell, the game considers handguns to be pistol, SMG, and the 44 Magnum revolver. So, you might argue that SMG isn't really a handgun. Yep, it's sort of true. It's more like a machine pistol, I guess. That's really what they're aiming for. And it just means that these are the 3 ones that are under the same kind of category. Now, as you saw from the perks, you can unlock crafting the pistol. Unfortunately, you can only go up to level 5. you'll see here, it says crack quality 5 great handguns. So you really have to, if you want a quality 6, you have to go out and loot or get it as a quest reward. Or I guess sometimes buy it at the trader. So how do you make the SMG and the revolver? Well, that's where the schematics come in. So if you read SMG 5 schematic, as you can see here, you'll be able to craft the SMG. Same thing for the Magnum. You read that one and all of a sudden you can craft that as well. As you can see here, now if I go to SMG, now I can craft that as well. All the guns are crafted in the workbench. So let's start with the pistol. And the pistol one requires handgun parts, and you find these ones around. You can buy them sometimes at the trader as well, or you basically get them from scrapping old crappy guns. Requires some forged iron, duct tape, polymers, and springs. Let's get that one done. Let's also look at the SMG. Again, handgun parts, forged steel, duct tape, polymers, and spring. Let's do that. The 44 Magnum. Again, more and more handgun parts, steel, polymers, and tape, and springs. So let's get that one. It's going to take a few minutes. But then you'll be the proud owner of, well, some weapons. Now let's look a little bit of the quality. If you play the game, you know that quality 1 is worse than quality 3, that is worse than quality 6. Now the way this works is that for each quality tier, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I'm not going to show all of them obviously, it's sort of a floating range of the attributes. So let's say for 1, the attribute range might be, let's say, 30 to 35. If you're on 3, it might be 40 to 45. 6, it might be 55 to 65 something. And the same works for all the different attributes that you have. Some have more magazines, some have less, but generally the damage will go up. Magazine size and the rounds per minute, etc. is going to vary a little bit depending on the specific pistol that you find, buy, or craft. As always, having a higher tier is always useful for a few reasons. So if we look here, the quality 1 pistol, this one gives 32 damage, which is acceptable. It has a magazine size of 15, 187 rounds per minute, which is all right. Maximum range of 16. Of course, it is a fairly short range. Max durability of, well, 219. Now, if we go to the quality 3, you'll see that it does 10 more damage. This one has a slightly worse magazine size, slightly worse rounds per minute, range has gone up a little bit, and the durability has gone up. Now we're going to go up and let me remove these mods here for a moment so we can have a little bit of a comparison. You see the damage has gone up even more. Magazine size is still just 15 rounds per minute. Effective range, again, you see these are randomized across, and durability is very similar to what the tier 4 is. But what's the difference then? If you have this one versus this one, it seems like it's not a lot of difference, but there is. So if I take the first one, we're going to look at modifying it. You see there's one modifier slot, which is good because every time you pop something in, you'll see the damage goes up. If I do number 3, modify, you'll see it has 2 modifier slots, which obviously means that if I put in 45, I put another one, 49. So you can see how adding an extra mods to the weapon will make the damage goes up, and sometimes the different attributes here as well, depending on what mod it is. If I have a Q6, let's do a modify. You'll see there are nice 4 slots here. So let's put on, for instance, the silencer. Let's put on the 2x scope, always nice to have. We can do the flashlight. Let's do the magazine extender. We complete that one, and let's see here, we reload, and I will now have 22 bullets. You'll see the damage now is 60, and that's quite a big increase. If you remember, if I remove all of these ones, the damage is going to be only 47. And at 60 damage is actually quite good. If you're doing headshots, getting 200% damage, that means that you're dealing 120. If you're sneaking and dealing extra sneak damage, then again, that quickly goes up really high. And this is where, well, we'll get to that one, but the silencer is really good. So what about the SMG? Well, let's compare the SMG to the pistol. If I compare just the same tiers, you'll see the SMG has 32 damage, 31 magazine size, and the pistol basically does the same damage but has a much smaller magazine size, shoots slower, shorter range, and well, the durability is probably more a function of random. We'll look at the tier 3. Again, this is very similar. The pistol is similar damage, but it has less as far as magazine size and rounds per minute. And if we look at the tier 6, compare that to the pistol, damage is the same, but you see the difference in the magazine and the rounds per minute. What this really means is that SMG is really a way to lay down a lot of damage really fast. So let's put on the drum mag, we put on the reflex sight, maybe do a rod and spring just to really bump up the damage there, and the foregrip. Oh, and let's do this. Let's reload it. You'll see it's got a nice 61 magazine. Oh, look at us just go through here. You can go through a magazine and not too long, and that obviously is really good if you have a bunch of zombies that are coming at you. Maybe it's a small horde, or maybe you just have one of those oh shit moments in a PUI where you pull out your SMG and you just go to town and try to take them out before they kill you. But otherwise, the SMG is very similar to the pistol as far as the attributes goes. So the pistol is really the king of a sort of medium fire rate. You can shoot pretty fast, but it's really good for clearing POIs when you're sneaking, because the 9mm bullets that we're going to get to are pretty cheap and easy to make, but you get the SMG when you really need to lay down a lot of damage really fast. Not as good as, for instance, an M60, but again, it is an SMG, it isn't a machine gun. But when we're looking at damage, this is where we get to the 44 Magnum. You'll see I have a tier 1. You'll see the damage is massive. It's got a 67 damage. Unfortunately, only 6 rounds in the Magnum. And of course, it shoots slower. And we look up at the tier 3. You'll see it jumps by 20 damage. Still, not a lot of magazine, but damage is really good. We look at tier 6. It's doing 96 damage for 6 rounds. And of course, the range is just medium. But if we look at kitting that out, let's see. Let's do a Cripplem, really good. Rad remover, laser sight, and let's do the barrel extender mod. Actually, let's remove that one. Let's do for the reflex sight. Okay, so let's pull that up. And we'll see now it does 122 damage fully kitted out. This is to compare with the pistol, which does 60, or the SMG, which also does 60. So this one does twice as much. However, of course, it is slower to shoot with. I'm going to try to shoot. You see, this is as fast as it goes. And it has a big kick. But at the same time, it does massive damage. One-shot head kill on a lot of the zombies, because again, we're looking at the damage is 122. Headshot, we're dealing 300% now because we're kitted out, which means we're up at 366 damage. If we're sneaking, it's an extra 122 damage as well, so we're almost doing 500 damage. The big downside though is that it's really noisy. It is going to wake up pretty much all the zombies around, and there's no way to put a silencer on it. As an example, we have here a zombie bear. I'm going to shoot it a few times. You'll see I'm doing massive damage, and it took 6 hits to kill it with the Magnum. If I'm doing the same thing with the pistol, I say I'm shooting away here. I got 22 shots and I got it done. Whoa, he's bouncing around. But it took me about, what, 14 shots and everything. So obviously you have to shoot a lot more. Best one is of course the SMG, and that's where you just pull it out, hold the trigger, and yeah, you're wasting some shots and some bullets, but hey, you take it out really fast. And that's really the big difference in these 3 handguns. So let's look at more skills, or rather more bonuses. And we're going to start with the Magnum Enforcer. And this is the 7-book series that you can find as you go around scavenging and looting. Now the first one is really nice. It does 10% more damage with the Magnums. Of course, if you're doing 100 damage or 122, that's plus an extra probably about 9 or 10 damage. Second one means you take less damage with wearing a suit. Well, that's helpful, not that I usually wear a suit though. 3. Last shot in this chamber does double damage. I tell you, this is hugely useful. Instead of dealing 122, it's going to deal almost 250 damage. So if you had 1 round, don't reload, just use it. Now the kind of funny one, now before, if you barter with a Magnum drawn, you'd get a 5% better deal. So you go to the trader with a Magnum, even of course you're not going to be shooting them, but you'll get a better deal. 5 and 6 is really about crafting ammunition. We first have the armor piercing and we have the hollow point, and we'll go through those in just a moment. 7, sprinting with the Magnum in combat uses 20% less stamina. Not really that useful, but The last one, and this is if you unlock all 7, shots from magnums penetrates enemies, and you can bulk craft ammo. What does this mean? Well, let's start with the bulk craft ammo. If you look at all this, if you can make 1 magnum ammo, it's 1 bullet tip, 3 gunpowder, and 1 bullet casing. But if you do 100 of them, you're only paying 80%. So it's 80 tips, 240 gunpowder, and 80 casing. So it's just useful to craft them in bulk. But it also says shots from magnums penetrates enemies. And this is where we're going to go through a little bit of the ammo here. So a normal shot, and this is the regular ammo. If I shoot it normally, I shot him, well, he got knocked down, but you notice this one didn't die or didn't take any damage because he was covered by the first one. However, now I've unlocked all these, so now it should be penetrating, which means if I shoot him now, bam, both got hit. And of course, that means that both of them take damage. So if I look here, he now has 89 damage out of 250, even though he was covered by Mo. So that's really, really useful because you have a few of them coming at you, you shoot, and it'll penetrate one and hit the second one as well. And considering how slow firing the Magnum is, that is just so useful. So what is there for the pistol and the SMG? Well, there's the pistol Pete. Looking at the first 1 out of 7, the 9mm weapons have 20% more range when sighted. So if you zoom in, you sight like that, you'll have 20% extra range. Not really that useful. And you notice it specifically mentions 9mm, and that's the pistol and the SMG, not the Magnum, because that one obviously has the Magnum Enforcer series. Number 2, each successive leg shot increases chance to cripple. Shoot them in the leg, they'll probably be crippled eventually, but you know, I'd rather shoot them in the head and kill them. 3, more accurate when rapid firing 9mm weapons. 4, pistols and SMG degrade 20% slower, not really super helpful. 5, you can craft hollow point 9mm. Now that's going to be useful. 6, craft armor piercing 9mm. Really useful. 7, inflict 10% more damage with the 9mm weapons. Really good. And the ultimate, powder burns. Shots fired at point blank ignore armor, and you can bulk craft. So what does that really mean? So I've now unlocked all of Pistol Pete. So shots fired at point blank should ignore armor. And these demolishers have 60% armor. So if I shoot this one from, let's see, go a little bit further here. It's got 1000 hit points, and I shoot him, it does 48 damage. So you would imagine if I shoot him, point blank range, ooh, you'll see. I actually started bleeding him, that's lucky, but it went down to 940. I don't know, I didn't actually realize that 9mm can make them bleed, but I guess that's helpful as well. Maybe I hit him really badly. But it means it did the full 60 damage as opposed to the 40. Well, 48, so it did a little bit more. If I shoot like that, it's still not point blank. Like this, I guess this is considered point blank. So you still have a few meters to play around with. Sorry, just testing. And of course we can cripple him in. Oh, sorry, he fell down. So ignoring armor can be really, really useful if they're close by, because if you're doing that oh shit moment where you're having your SMG up, they're probably going to be really close, and then you definitely want to be ignoring their armor. Ooh, take him out in the head, or rather take out the head. So what about crafting the ammo? Oh, that I finally completed. So let's do 9mm. Now that we've unlocked everything, we can do the normal 9mm bullet, which is 111, very cheap and easy to make. The armor piercing requires twice as much gunpowder. Not that gunpowder is a major issue. Hollow point requires more of the bullet tip instead. Now, of course, we can bulk craft them as well, which means it's just cheaper. It costs you 80%. And we have the same thing for the Magnum Ammo. We have the regular one, armor piercing, more gunpowder, hollow point, more bullet tip, and the bulk crafting. But what's really the difference in, well, how do they work? So if we're looking at the regular 9mm ammo, we'll see it does 32 range damage. Let's not really care about the block damage, because you're not going to be destroying blocks with them. Hollow point does 41, so it is quite a big difference, an extra 33%, but they get an extra 100% armor, which means that if they have armor already, it's going to deal a lot less. So use them against unarmored targets. Armor piercing, however, removes 20% of armor, and it has 1 target penetration. So as I showed before, if I shoot at a regular one here, it takes damage, but no one else takes any damage. You'll see they have full damage here. However, let me switch to armor piercing. Yeah, stop complaining. So if I shoot him here in the stomach, bam, you'll see the second one also took some damage. You'll see it's down to a little bit too close. Come on. It's got 156 damage and they're bleeding, which is nice as well. So it will penetrate one and hit the second one, which of course can be really useful. But what about the hollow point? Well, good if you're doing headshots against these ones, because it's good when you're clearing POIs, because it does extra damage, and because most zombies don't have any armor, that's not an issue either. However, if you run across, let's say, demolishers, construction zombies, soldiers, etc., who have armor, then you definitely don't want to be using the hollow point. And of course, you can use these 9mm in the SMG as well. It's exactly the same. The Magnum is functionally very similar in that range damage 65 with the regular one. Armor piercing does 80 damage. It does have the minus 20% armor for the target and does have 1 penetration. Hollow point has the highest damage compared to the regular one, 65 versus 84, but it increases the target armor, which means that if they're already armored, you have a problem. But if you've been paying attention here, Magnum Enforcer says that shot from Magnums penetrate enemies. This really means that for a lot of the regular zombies, even if you use the normal Magnum ammo, it will penetrate. So often, not all the time, but often, using the regular Magnum ammo can be really useful because it's cheaper to make than the armor piercing, but it will still penetrate. So that's usually what I do. I'll just be using the regular one because it will hit multiple ones. And it does massive damage as well, which is really good. So in closing, the handguns are really powerful. You'll find the pistols really early on. SMGs doesn't take that long to discover. Magnums take longer, but they're really more of a tier 3 mid-game weapon. You have to be much better to aim because you have limited amount ammo in the magazine, but it deals a lot more damage at the same time. When it gets down to it, if you run into that oh shit moment where you have all the zombies swarming you, pull out that SMG. If you got armor piercing, you can really mow down a nice big horde pretty fast. But at the same time, you might want to run. You might want to run as well because, well, one magazine isn't going to allow you to kill all of them. So you want to make sure you reload, and they're all down. Ooh, some loot. Let me take the cash. So what's your preference? Do you use the pistol, SMGs, or Magnum? And if you do, why? And if you don't, why not? But I hope this guide gives you more information on how to build up your handgun skills. Good luck, Survivor. I'll see you out there.
Special thanks to the great patrons supporting the channel. If you would like to join the vetted community and support these videos, do follow the Patreon link.